Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast with Kimberly Brown. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most requested topics ever, one of the biggest questions that I get, probably the most requested speaking topic that I get. We're going to talk about the relationships you need in the workplace and how to cultivate mentors and sponsors. Now, in my book, I break them down into 4 categories, but sometimes I break it down into 5 if you catch me speaking to you. So the 4 key relationships that you need are peers, coaches and teachers, mentors, and sponsors. And the bonus, sometimes I say colleagues, but we're going to put that into your peers for right now. So let's break them down one by one. Relationship number 1 that you need are your peers. Now, you'll hear me say this several times, but you need peers internal and external to your company. Many times we just focus on doing the work every single day, who's on your team, who's doing these things. But as you start to move into leadership roles, it's important to understand what's happening in your industry at large. So what are other companies doing? Do you have peers over there who you can call and ask? When you go to personal and professional development events, who are those colleagues who you meet? That's why sometimes I say peers or I say colleagues. I go back and forth. But regardless, you need people who are generally at the same level as you, who you'd be collaborating with, who'd potentially be on your team if you decided to work at another company. But those are your peers. Next up, we need our coaches or teachers. Now, this is the group that many people forget about. Coaches and teachers literally teach you how to do something in the workplace. Sometimes we think that our mentors are supposed to do this or our sponsors, but your coaches and teachers are a very special group. So let's say that you're in the workplace and every single time you do high-level presentations to senior stakeholders, you just can't get that deck right, or you're having a hard time communicating what needs to be done in order to get your idea across. A coach or a teacher is going to pull you to the side and literally look slide by slide and say, we need to edit this here. When you talk about this, come from this angle instead. They are teaching you how to do something. The example I give about myself is that if you want me to be in anybody's spreadsheet, pivot tables, quantitative analysis, you're going to see real tears come down my face. I have always leveraged coaches and teachers in the workplace to teach me how to do those things because it just doesn't stick every single day when I'm doing that type of work. Another example I can give you there is actually hiring a coach. Now, this is not a shameless plug because as much as I'd love for you to work with me, you may not be a good fit to work with me or may not like my style of coaching. But when you hire a coach, their goal is to coach you to help you go through whatever it is that you need in the workplace. When we think about sports teams, no matter how great an athlete is, there is a coach helping them get to the next level in I almost said in the workplace, next level on the field or whatever arena that they play in. The coach helps them create the plays, helps them execute at their highest level. And that is why these coaches and teachers are so important. So next up, we have our mentors. Now, mentors, most people know who mentors are, but I explain it as that person who's been there, done that. They have literally been in your shoes before, so they can help you in that situation. They're generally there to help you with real-time feedback, understanding your experience. You can probably even vent to them a little bit to get some insights on something that happened in the workplace. So let's say you had a performance appraisal that really went wrong and you were shocked about the feedback. Your mentor is probably someone you can speak to get more insights on that. Why did you get that feedback? How could you have done that a little bit better? And they could also even provide maybe just some comfort on how to make sure that you navigate this just a little bit better next time. So last but not least are the sponsors. Now, one of my favorite mentors in my head is Carla Harris from Morgan Stanley. And she says that you can go your whole career without having a mentor, but you will not go far if you do not have a sponsor. And she asked the question, who is going to bring your paper into the room? Now, when I explain sponsors, I say that these are the professionals who can take you from where you are to where you rightfully belong. They literally have the power and influence to pull you up from where you are and put you in that next role, new company, whatever it is that you want. Now, this relationship is so special, and people will say, well, my mentor does that. But the difference is that there's that power and influence. Not every mentor, every teacher or coach, or every peer has power and influence. That's why the sponsor relationship is so different. And generally, when someone has power and influence, they may not have the accessibility of a mentor. So you may not be able to talk to them every single day or get on their calendar for a weekly meeting or even a quarterly catch up. Sometimes your sponsor literally just comes in for the big game and helps you make that pivotal next step for yourself. So now people always ask, well, where do I find these people? I talk a lot about personal and professional development associations. So it's a great way to network, especially to find those folks who are outside of your industry or outside of your current company. But when we're talking about you right now in your current company, if you are looking for mentorship and sponsorship, for mentorship, look and see, is there someone who's been in your exact shoes? Now, the key here is, were they in your role? Were they in your department? What is the commonality that would help you or provide you with feedback day to day on your experience? So that person may be a step ahead. Maybe they moved into a lateral role in another department. They don't necessarily have to be more senior than you. You can have someone who's in the same level as you, who can still provide mentorship. But the key is they've been there, done that. Now, when you're looking for sponsors, like I said earlier, power and influence is key. So where is the power in the organization? One of the questions that I always ask my clients is, who makes the final decision when you have a new idea? Sometimes you'll tell it to your boss and your boss will say, well, let me run this up the pole to my boss. Then that person is the person you want to talk to for sponsorship, because you want the person who has the power and influence to make decisions and you can leverage that. So let's say you're going for a new role. Who's the person who would be able to write your name down? And that means you're definitely getting an interview. That's who you want as a sponsor. So to recap today, I want to talk about the 4 relationships again, just so you have them. If you didn't take your pen and paper out, this is an episode you may want to listen back to write all these things down. So you can really do an analysis of, do you have these relationships in your life? So first, we talked about peers, internal and external to your current company. Next, we talked about your coaches or teachers. Again, internal and external to your current company. Then we have mentors, the folks who've been there, done that, who can give you that day-to-day feedback on your role. And last but not least, we have your sponsors, and power and influence is key here. So as you're listening to this podcast and thinking about yourself, I challenge you to do an analysis. Look at all the relationships you have in the workplace and start to put folks into these 4 categories. Where do you have a whole bunch of folks? Where is there not anyone on your list? And that is where you want to strategically start building relationships. When I think about building relationships in the workplace, it's so easy to just go to the event. And back in the day, we used to collect business cards. I don't even have a business card now, but we add on LinkedIn now and you think, oh, that person's in my network. But the key is that you're really building a relationship. Ask that person out for coffee. Quick 15 to 20 minute coffee date. You don't need a whole hour. Ask for a moment of their time to get to know them, share your experience, ask them questions about where they are, what they're doing, and ask if they have time to connect on a regular basis. And continuously follow up, whether that's once a quarter, twice a year, once a year, depending upon who the person is. But staying in their network makes it actually a relationship. Just because you met them one time and you had one great conversation does not mean that that's a relationship that you'd be able to leverage. One of my mentors always says that she likes to wait a minimum of 1 year before making an ask. Because I know that's another question that you may have. Well, I'm building all these relationships. What if I want to apply to a job today or tomorrow and I want a referral? Just like when you're in a romantic relationship. So let's think about the romantic relationships that you have. When you go on a first date with someone, there's so many jokes about that individual who's like, ooh, well, I'm looking to get married and I want 3 kids and I want to buy this house and I want to do this and I want to do that. And the other person's like, hey, easy. Like, I'm not really ready for all that. The same thing works in the workplace. You don't want to lay it on thick in your first meeting. Like, hey, I just met you and I want you to refer me to this job and that job, introduce me to this network and this. And by the way, I need this promotion this way. You need to build the relationship authentically. Get to know them, their experience, their needs, their wants, their desires. Figure out maybe if you can help them, or if they're super senior, maybe you won't be able to help them, but take the time to get to know them. For some people, maybe if you came through a reference, so they know you through someone else, you may be able to make an ask in 3 months. Or maybe they want to help you right away. But for people who you really don't know, it may take time. If you are questioning whether it's time and you're comfortable to make an ask, that probably is a signal that it may be too soon for you to make an ask. So keep that in mind as you're building these relationships in the workplace. And with that, I hope that you make your next move your very best move, and you're making that move with the correct relationships that you need in the workplace.
Throughout my career, throughout the different roles that I've had, there had been some traumas that came up. And I didn't realize that there was trauma until I had left corporate, and someone who is a psychologist was like, I was talking to her just about my experience and what I was going through once I initially left corporate. And she was like, you sound like you might have PTSD. I think you need to go talk to a therapist, get a specialist, and, get diagnosed or get help with that. And so that is how I found out about this